Okay, just started recording, so we want to kick it off. People can just listen in. If anyone's any questions, just don't be afraid to talk. I really look at chat, so just chat out. You can just shout out if you got a question. So this session shouldn't take very long. We're down 45 minutes, but hopefully it won't take that length of time. Really, this is uh, going through something that I talked about at a previous webinar, where I'd gone through the new things that was on the developer end of things shown at Dreamforce. Um, it's something that I've shown at the Dublin Developer Group. It's something I'm also going to use as part of my presentation for London's Calling. It's something that not many people know about. Um, I think it's something that can be used quite effectively when dealing with customers and users to make screens for them, whether it be Visual Force or Lightning components. So um, about a year and a half ago now, Salesforce introduced their own UI system called Lightning Design System. The main reason for this was because up to then, we had to write a lot of CSS and style sheeting into our Lightning components on our Visual Force. A lot of Visual Force was written almost like the Wild West, where people could use any kind of framework they wanted. Bootstrap, Foundation, jQuery UI, you name it, all sorts of things being thrown in. So Salesforce always had a style guide that they expected you to use your own CSS code to make it look like their style guide. But of course, that's a lot more work than it's probably worth doing. So they introduced Lightning Design System in summer 16. It was end of August actually that year, and it was was very successful. To use it in Salesforce, you had to bring it in as a static resource. But you could add it then to your Visual Force pages and to your Lightning components, and you may be looking at Visual Force pages that Blue have done in the last year, because we've been using this thing pretty much for a year now, and most of our Visual Force pages we probably have brought it in as a static resource. That method of bringing in as a static resource will still work. There's nothing wrong with that. But Design System is now a part of the platform. So you can see we now have a current release of Spring 17. So they're going to upgrade this every release. And because it's baked into the platform, all we have to do is extend it or use it. So in Visual Force, there's a new tag been introduced in Spring 17 called Apex:/SLDS. Once you add that into your page automatically gets Lightning Design System. And in components, we extend a Force:/SLDS extension. Once that's done, we can start adding in some markup that you can see the kind of things we can add in here. So for example, if we add something like a data table, which is pretty common for us at a data table, this gives you a nice look and feel of a data table. And we don't have to style it. We just have to take this, basically this front end markup here. So we've got lots of classes given to us from the framework. SLDS table, SLDS border, it adds a border, adds a table. Here we're adding the titles as capital letters. Lots of classes we can add to our code. So we can take this code out, add it to our Visual Force, add it to our Lightning components. We could even add it to a Roku, and if you really wanted to, you could add it to an external system as well, because the library is still there for downloading. But it covers a lot of things. It covers look and feel of data tables, button groups, the kind of thing you would realize that is normal amongst the likes of Bootstrap and Foundation. Now, Bootstrap, Foundation, those other libraries are more mature because they've been out longer. But Lightning Design System has improved quite a lot in its year and a half. One area just to keep an eye on when you look at Lightning Design System is utilities section. Utilities give you a lot of things that would be useful. For example, spacing is something that we use quite a lot. So we don't add pixels left, right, top, bottom anymore. We use these classes to do it various sizes, and that moves our puts the right, if you like, margins around our elements. So this is all well and good. But what I want to talk about today is something else that was released at Dreamforce. Well, I saw the Dreamforce for the first time. It was created by the UX team within Salesforce, and it's called the Design System UI Kit. And what this is it's a way to separate our concerns a bit when it comes to creating solutions for our customers. So instead of having an Apex developer having to go off and make a front end, if you already have a web developer on your books who's good at making front ends, we can get him to make a front end without even going into Salesforce. Okay, that front end and that solution with the customer. And as soon as the customer is happy with that, then we can start adding it into our Visual Force page and our Lightning components. So this kit helps us to do that. So what the kit is it's basically, we're using Node.js. It's got Gulp and a few other things plugged in. The idea is that you'll run this kind of from the command line. So to get started with this, I'm going to run through some of the start. I have it already set up on my laptop. I'm going to show you how roughly what you're going to do to get started with this system. So this link to a workshop, this is the workshop I was at Dreamforce 16. I've already emailed that to everyone who's on the call. So there it is. It's rapid prototyping with SLDS with hyphens in between. And this sfdcworkshop.com also includes all the other workshops that were actually at Dreamforce. So there's a lot more things other than what I'm bringing you through today. But this is what we're looking at right now, is prototyping. The next thing you'll need is you'll need a GitHub account. Now, GitHub is free. You just sign up for it and get a free GitHub account. And once you have your GitHub account set up, you'll navigate to a GitHub address, which is here in step 1. And that address is here. So this is the GitHub account of SalesforceUX, and they have made all the files for us. We don't have to worry too much about it. All we have to do is fork it to our own GitHub repo. Now, you don't have to do that. You could download this and work with it if you want to do locally. But the advantage of forking it means that if you have it on your own GitHub repo and your local files are being updated on your repo, then you can push that repo then up to maybe Heroku and let your customers see what you're making on the web, which you can use in a password. You can add those in, by the way, onto Heroku. And this is what we've done for a couple of our customers. So once you've forked it, you basically clone it. So I just hook across. This is, let's see if I can get you to my own account here. And you can see this is my fork of the system. And I simply cloned it down. I can download it as a zip file, or I can just use the command line to download it. Download it does take a while. And when you download it, you go to your folder structure where it is, and I'll just bring you to where my folder structure is. So I have a directory. This is where I zipped it down. I expanded it here, Design System Starter Kit, and you get most of the files, at least the files we need to set up. Now, one thing we're given is we're not given all the plugins. So all the node modules, for example, we're not given these in the repo. No one really does this anymore. So we get a package.json, and we're going to basically, if you like, install all these packages. So this is where you start going to your command prompt or your terminal in your system. So right now I am in my Design System Starter Kit. So in order for you to start off with, and this is a once only job, once you've forked it down and cloned it down, you'll basically cd into that folder I just showed you. And then you'll run a command called run npm install. So for most Node developers and npm developers, this is old hat. This is really what this is going to do, is install all those extra files and extra packages that this kit needs. Now, once that will actually take you a few minutes. That will take a little bit of time. So if that takes 5 minutes, if you're following this on a recording, that's normal. In fact, it took some of the guys in the developer group about 15 minutes to get it all down. But once it's down, you won't have to run it anymore, okay, for that directory. Okay, so everything is now set up. So if I follow across into my directory, I am now basically set up with this directory. So what I do then is I can run another command. And this one I'll run for you so you can see it running. So what I'll do is I'll just run the command. It's npm run dev. And when you run this, it's basically going to run Gulp and a few other files on the folder, and it will launch my browser automatically, and I'll see this lovely page. So if you've gotten this far, that means that you've got the kit up and running. Something that might hit people who already got npm on their laptops, you need npm version 4.2 or later. Certainly I had to upgrade mine because I had an older version of npm or Node. So if you need a new version of Node, go and get it. If you need help with that, you can give me a quick call or follow any instructions on the web. They'll tell you how to do it as well. So once you have it all set up, we can start working with the files in the kit. So if we look at Design System Starter Kit, this is the folder here, the main folder, and it's got lots of subfolders. The subfolder we're interested in is the SRC directory. So in the SRC directory, there's a number of files that we can now like use to make our mock-up screens. And there's a separate folder in there called views, and we're going to work inside views almost exclusively when it comes to this solution. So as you can see, when you open up your files, I have a lot of files here I'm currently working on. You guys won't have any of these files in your system. You won't have this one or this one either, but you'll have a lot of the rest of them. You'll have about 8 or 9 files in your folder. You'll also have a data directory, which I'll talk about in a minute. In the workshop then, what they want you to do is simply go to the workshop.html file. Okay, so we're going to, this explains a bit more about the kit as you follow along the URL. This is the file we're looking for, workshop.html, because if you're following the recording and it's brand new, this file will be almost blank. Okay, so this is what the file looks like here. I've just opened in Atom Editor. You guys can use any editor you want, Notepad++, you know, brackets, Sublime, it doesn't really matter. But what this has is basically, it doesn't have very much in it. When you look at the browser, when we launched the screen, we just saw basically, this is the index screen. But what we want to do is we're going to, if you like, navigate to a file in that directory. So I call mine workshop2, and you can see it is empty. And the reason it's empty is because this uses a library called Nunjux. So that's bringing in some templating, which is the header that you saw. But we're also, close that down. So this is that would be the templates that you saw. Now we can then add HTML from Lightning Design System in here. And as you're following along, what you'll notice is that there's a lot of comments. And you can just simply take the URL from the comments. I'll just do the first one. Copy out that URL and go straight over to your browser. And just paste the link in. And it will bring you directly to a place in Lightning Design System that I showed you a few minutes ago where they want you to copy something. So we're just going to copy this amount of code here. So you just scroll down, just copy the code as is. You don't make any changes to it. And we'll just copy it out. And I'll go into my file. And what they want us to do is after that comment, in between the, if you like, see the start page header and the end page header, they want us to paste in that code. And press save. Now, if your system is set up correctly, Terminal is continually refreshing if you make a save. So if we go to our browser and go to our page, you'll see it's already there. That's part of Gulp, part of a few other things that runs. It's part of that package. So you can see it doesn't look too bad. It's pretty much out of the box. So basically the workshop gets you to make a screen. Okay? So if I copy across to, if I just flick across to the final end product, which is here, this is eventually what you will create. So once you follow all the instructions of your file, you go here to your columns, you see everything's got a link. Here's the little wizard. You copy that out, more links, and if you just follow along, you'll make a screen that ends up looking like this. And most of the guys at the developer group could do that by themselves. So that's, in a nutshell, that's what the workshop brought us through. But where this has become, after playing with it a bit more, there's a lot more available to us than just that. Okay. So what I want to do is I'm going to show you a screen that I'm building at the moment for another talk that I'm due to give. So I'm speaking at London's Calling. So I'm making a screen for London's Calling. I'm taking some of this stuff out, but the idea behind this is to show off how to make a screen that looks a little bit like this, where I've just got a pricing list. I got some products. I'm looking at some trainers here for Nike. And I just wanted to show how to make this screen before you give it to a customer and say, is this what you want? Okay. So how I make this screen is, I already started this, but what I do is I just find out, okay, what do they want to see? And I start bringing in the areas of the markup that I want from Lightning Design System. So the code I have looks a little bit like this. So again, this takes a bit of time, but I put in a page header. That's very similar to the page header you saw. We bring in with just a little bit missing. I added in another grid. So this is all part of Lightning System. You will have to learn is grid system, but this is really just a panel. And I added in some form tags. Most of this is pretty much taken from Lightning Design System with a few changes here and there. And then later on, I'm showing some products. Now, this is where I just want to bring you through what the workshop does not bring you through. So in my list of products here, I could hard code this in. I could make cards, and I could hard code in the names and put them in. But when you do that on mocks, it tends to make the code very long in your mock. It doesn't lend itself to being copied across really easily, because we normally in Visualforce do an apex repeat over things, or in Lightning Components it'll be an apex iteration. We don't, generally speaking, work with just hard coding in data. What we do work with in components anyway is JSON. So this is what we work with. And that library Nunjux I mentioned, that looks a little bit like Angular in some ways, but it's basically allowing us to loop through some things. So I've got something called products here. Now, products is not defined anywhere in my file. It's just neither here nor there. So where is this products actually set up? Well, if you look at the name of my HTML file, I call this one prices viewer. If I flick out to the data directory, which I told you I was going to come back to later on, I've got a prices viewer JSON file. If I tap on that, you'll see I've made some JSON. So if you're not familiar with JSON, so it's JavaScript object notation, basically this is just allowing us to put data using name value pairs. So this is the name and this is the value, separated with a semicolon. And we use braces then to organize how we want them to be structured. So for example, this brace in JavaScript is an object. So we've got a property of that object called record title. We've got another property called products. And this is what we're looking at on our page. And the rule is that once in the UI kit, that once the JSON file is called the same as the HTML file, you can start bringing data in. Okay. So again, we're not inside Salesforce here. We're not really anywhere. We're just making out a mock screen that we're eventually going to change that into an iteration in Visualforce or in Lightning Components. And we're iterating over these products. And to get access to information in product, it's very simple. Whatever you've called it, so every product here is going to be called record. So record.name, and record.name will coincide with a name value then in products. And that's why we get our names coming out here. And you can see I've done this for a huge amount of other data, including sub data, which I'll quickly show you how we did that. So if I flick across to Atom, you'll see that I have products, but I also, inside products, have something called sizes_R. So this is a list of sizes within that product. So for this Nike Air Max, whatever I copied on the web, has got a number of sizes available to us and prices. So if we go to our mockup, you'll see that later on, after I look at my products. So if I flick here, you'll see I'm looping over products. But if you keep in mind, this record is a product. And then later on, we're going to do an iteration over record.sizes_R. And each individual is going to be called rec. And for each one, I can get that rec's name. In this case is size. Then it's regular price, it's cost price, and sale price. So as you can see, we can make quite complicated screens and add JSON to it and even reuse some of that JSON throughout our mock-up screens. And we've found this, I've certainly found this very useful to make very, very contextually for the customer, very contextually aware for them to get the right data in. I didn't have to spend a lot of time doing it. In fact, I could have in as many records as I want to simply now by editing the JSON. So when I've finished this, and this is where I'm adding my talk right now in London's Calling, I'm trying to come up with this solution to make Lightning Components so that we have acceptance from our customers before we really get into our work. And it's also affecting us for Visualforce. So most Visualforce pages we'll make now in Blue Wave will use Lightning Design System. The main reason that I suggested is because number one, it's in the platform. We don't have to bring it in. Number two, it looks well with the rest of Lightning Experience. And number three, if I'm working on a project and I've had a Lightning Design System and another developer has to take over from me, they will have learned the same system. So we're all talking about the same UI framework. No one's interested in adding in version 4 of Bootstrap when half of the company don't know it. We're going to use the same look and feel, and we can make these screens to add in. But a couple of points that I'm still in the middle of doing my session London's Calling about this and how I want it to work is that I would like us to make these kind of screens with this kit before and get our customers to accept it and find out what they like, what they don't like. As you can see, it's easy to make this code. You just move code around. If they don't like something, taking off a button is easy by just removing a line rather than taking off a whole component or something that you might have coded already. Then when the customer has agreed that they like the screen, Then we're going to transfer it over to Salesforce. And this is why I've done a few things here that I've learned as I'm using this. It is the reason why in our JSON file, I've put an underscore C's in here and underscore R's, because that's how I envisage the data model being, or maybe we already know what the data model is. We don't really want to code it directly with Apex quite yet. So we could use this JSON and add the record to Visualforce, or especially to Lightning components, and see that come in without actually writing any code. So what I might do is, because I have a few minutes, I'm going to quickly open up another org to show you how far I've gotten to explain this. Okay, so we'll open up this org here. I'm going to quickly open up Developer Console. This is an org I'm creating for this talk with London's Calling, show you some of the code. So if I flick across, I'm opening up Lightning components here. I'm bringing people already through the webinars right now about this. Well, as you can see, this is my Lightning component that I pretty much created from that mock-up you just saw. I saw a couple of things just to point out. The first one is eventually we'll want to populate this with an object, but I've just simply copied in all of the code pretty much. The first thing to note is that SVGs, which come with Lightning Design System, don't work in Lightning components. We have to remove them and replace them with something else. What we replace them with is a new component called a Lightning icon. I think I have one of them down here. I'll find it in a second. The other thing is that for our nunjux, if you like, our iteration formula, we're going to replace that with an OR iteration in Lightning. You'd replace it with an Apex repeat in Visualforce. So again, you're going to have your items somewhere, and I'll come back to that in a second. And each item will have a product. And again, it's very simple. It's product.name. And I have the name somewhat similar, so I can bring this in relatively quickly. As you can see, I have market underscore C and status underscore C. And as you go down to the internal loop, then to loop through the records, again, I've replaced it with an OR iteration over the sizes, double underscore R. And again, for each item, I'm giving its name, RRP, etc. So that's bringing it in. The other thing just to note is that because I'm looping over something called products. Products in Lightning is an attribute. So if I go to the very top, if I said the other day that attributes are, if you like, variables in Lightning. So I have an init handler here to run when the Lightning component renders. It's going to run some JavaScript code, which is in my controller. And what this is doing is, lo and behold, using the exact same JSON I made in my mockup. I simply threw it in, and I'm assigning that now to a component called products. And that component called products, if I look back on the code, you'll see it is of type object. It's a list of objects. Essentially, it is JSON. And that's why the screen works. So we have made a component now inside Lightning Components using that mockup code. And we haven't even called Apex yet. Okay, so we've got the screen working in Salesforce. People can use it. We can start decomposing it to different components. You can do the same thing with Visualforce. You can put JSON in there, and instead of worrying about writing big controller queries, you can take some of this code and bring it back and use it in your code. So that's about it. Again, if you want to just quickly take note of the links here, so that is, especially from the recording, that is the link for the workshop. So it's sfdcworkshop.com/rapid-prototyping-with-SLDS/ You get to this screen. The screen brings you through pretty much everything I showed you. Part of it shows you how to edit the record using developer tools. Again, I used Atom because I just find it easier. They're bringing you through how to do it here and how to edit pages, but it's similar to what I just did. And the last part it brings you through is how to deploy on Heroku. And it is very, very simple how to do it. That you simply have in your own repo, you'll have a README file, and there is a button, deploy to Heroku. When you tap on that button, it'll pretty much give you step-by-step instructions how to do it with your Heroku account. Heroku accounts are free, unless you're using them an awful lot, which, I mean, I have a Heroku account with 10 apps in a minute, and I'm not being charged for it. You simply put it up there, you can add a username and password, and we can give that to our customers for them to view it. Any questions? Okay, so if there's no questions, you can always grab me an email address. For Phil Gannon, I know is online there. It's barry.hughes@bluewavegroup.eu. And you can give me a shout on it, and I can send you the links again. But the links that I used here are all on the email I sent just before the recording. So if you're listening to this on the recording and you want those links, you can send us a mail, and I'll also put them onto our chatter feed. Okay, with that, and say thanks very much, and I'll see you all soon.